DLC Network here with another unboxing, this time coming from a company called FIFINE. And this is their KC88 USB and XLR dynamic microphone. It's specifically a dynamic cardioid microphone, and it's pretty much for streamers and podcasters, anybody looking to do voiceovers. It's one of those microphones, and it actually might come off as looking a little bit familiar to you, since they're going for that similar style of design to like the Shure SM7B, for example, only this is a lot less. But it has some of your typical features that you'd find in some of these microphones today, such as a touch control, a touch-sensitive mute button specifically, as well as some volume controls on the back side that allow you to be able to control mic volume as well as monitor volume, and of course, the option to monitor your volume using headphones. And like most microphones, some of that is dependent upon what mode you're in, because again, this is an XLR and USB microphone. So most of those features, in fact all those features, the volume, the headphone monitoring, the volume control, the touch control for the mute, that's all dependent upon if you're using it as USB. For XLR, it just becomes an analog microphone, but with better sound. And by better sound, it provides up to 16-bit 48 kilohertz audio with an SPL of up to 130 decibels, guaranteeing that within that range you'll not experience any distortion in your audio. And a frequency range between 70 hertz and 15 kilohertz. And back to the design, it features that nice pop filter right there, that windscreen that's across the front, again, similar design to something like the SM7B, but again, affordable. And aluminum housing, so it isn't going to be just your cheapo looking plastic microphone. It's going to have a little bit of a durable shell to it. And as for that price tag, it's only $79.99. Quite the steal. So what we're going to do first is we're going to open this up, we're going to take a look and see what it looks like, what it comes with, and then we're going to give you a bit of an audio demonstration to see what it sounds like. But first, let's go ahead and open it up. The first thing you see is the K688 user guide, which is going to teach you how to use the microphone. It's going to be a fold-out design, and it's just going to tell you what the specs are and how to use it. Let it be via XLR or USB. Again, your volume and controls and everything else on there are dependent upon being USB because it needs power. So when you're using it with XLR, it's just simply an analog microphone, but sounds better. It does come with a USB-C to just regular USB cable here with a decent amount of length here. So this is going to be good for a laptop scenario or a desktop scenario where your tower is on the floor. So this should get you where you need to go. They do provide you with mic thread, so if you have your own tripod, or if you have any kind of mic stand or any other form of extension where you'll be able to attach this to, it gives you that option to be able to choose between the two sizes of threads that are mostly going to cover you in just about any common scenario. And then you have the microphone. Now, the microphone, again, looks a lot like, I'm not going to keep saying it, but it looks a lot like one from Shure. It really does, actually. But it's not Shure, it's FIFINE. And this is a fantastic looking microphone. Its foam filter right here on the front is removable, and you can see a similar cage design on the inside. That separates you a little bit here, giving some extra air and the effect that, well, this style of microphone is really looking for. It gives you that specific profile. And like I mentioned, it is an aluminum housing, so it does offer a more durable design to it. On the top of the microphone right here, and they just have it orientated this way in case you have it on an extension arm or boom or something, so it's coming at you this way, but this is the top of the microphone, and the top features that touch sensitive mute button here so that you can immediately mute the mic and visually know that you are safe, that it is muted, which is important if you're streaming live. On the back side of the microphone, you have your connectivity. You have your XLR port right here for analog, and then you have your USB-C port, which is going to be for the included cable, and that's going to be for connecting to a PC or a Mac or a Linux computer or anything else that takes USB audio. And when using it with USB, everything else works. That's going to be where your mute button works and where your volume controls work. Now you have two different volume controls here on the back. Again, you have the option of adjusting the mic volume directly from the microphone, again, when using USB. And you also have the volume adjustment here at the top, which is going to be for monitoring using a pair of headphones. So that way you can actually hear what you sound like. And then of course for connecting your pair of headphones, You have a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, or just analog or TRS jack here on the back that you plug into. And that's it. It's a microphone. It's simple, but what makes it a little bit better than your typical mic is it isn't just analog. It's digital, so you can go both ways. You can use it on analog, or you can use it with digital. And in our case today, what we're gonna do is we're gonna hook it up to listen to it as analog, because we wanna hear it in its raw form. We wanna really know what it sounds like. And we're gonna do that, and we're gonna compare it with a semi-comparable microphone, we'll say, that's kind of the same kind of podcasting design, but a little bit more expensive. So let's get to that. So just to give it a bit of a good challenge here, since the SM7B is a little bit unfair, being that it is, well, it's quite the microphone, but it's also 4 times the price, more than 4 times the price than this guy. So we decided to put it up against one of these from Moana. This one is also more expensive. This is $150. So it's almost twice the price of this guy. So it's still giving this guy a challenge to see what would the FIFINE sound like. What would the K688 sound like compared to this guy? So this is a good microphone. We like it. We've done a story on this before, and it turned out pretty good. Now, from our own toying with the one from FIFINE, our expectations are going to be pretty much similar, I believe. Let's find out. And now we are listening to the FIFINE K688 microphone, connected via XLR. So that way we can really get some raw performance out of this microphone to understand what it sounds like. And this is what it sounds like. And surprisingly, and also not surprisingly, since we have played with this a little bit before bringing it into the studio here, but it sounds good. And the only reason why I put it on the box here is because I use this little mini tabletop stand here, because we used it on the other microphone, so I figured I'll swap it over to this one. Unfortunately, though, without the neck, that brings it kind of low. You'd be using a proper stand, or preferably, you would be using it via some kind of an extendable arm, a retracting arm, or a boom stand that's above you and separated from your desk surface, because typically, when you're using a microphone of any sort, really, you shouldn't have it on your desk surface, because it's going to pick up everything. But this is what I put it on. Only because our extended surface, we actually have a bar system above us here, but it's for shotgun microphones and other things. And it takes a dynamic Cardioid microphone out of its comfort zone in terms of the distance, because usually for a broadcast podcast microphone of this style, you want it really close to your face to get the most performance out of it. So when it's up here, it doesn't quite get the same effect. So to be fair, we put it on the tabletop stand, and I'll behave myself and not hit the desk too much so you can just hear what my raw voice sounds like. So again, we just had the Moana one hooked up. I just randomly grabbed that from our stock, and I figured that would be a pretty good comparison, being that it too is a good microphone, only it's a little bit more expensive than this one. So this one is almost half the price at only $79.99. And I keep getting really close to the microphone to give you an idea of what the pop filter or windscreen is doing to really reduce some of those just implosives coming from my mouth, those P's and B's, so that you know that the windscreen is doing what it needs to be doing, and how well it's doing it, at least. So typically you'd have this a little bit closer to your face. So as you're talking online, you'd probably be, you'd have it this much of a distance to your mouth, or this is good too. Really have some options here. You can hear that right now, the difference between those two. The further you take it away from yourself, the more you got to take up the volume on whatever your source is. Of course, we have this running to an audio console that runs the studio here. So you might have something different for that, for adjusting your volume analog-wise. Of course, if you're using it on a PC, you'd have the volume controls on the back, and you can adjust this directly from the back of the microphone. The issue with that is the further you get away from the microphone, the more you're going to start hearing everything else that's going on in the room. Of course, if I don't kick the desk like that, but if you have a less of a controlled atmosphere, such as a bedroom or something else, this is kind of cheating. We're in a studio, so it's relatively pretty quiet in here. But if you have a less controlled environment, the further you get, the more you're going to have to crank it up, the more you're going to hear everything else around you, so you want it close to your mouth, because that's what this microphone, again, is designed for. And again, it sounds pretty good. So the first microphone you were listening to, just do a kind of a follow-up on everything now. We were listening to a wireless lav setup here. This is just a Sennheiser setup, and it sounds good. I mean, it's Sennheiser, but it's also incredibly expensive. The second mic we just had connected, again, mono, and it sounded very good, but twice the price almost of this one. This one, again, $79.99. This is what it sounds like. Sounds good. So we'll have links in the description so you can figure out where to find this microphone and any other information that we might find important. It'll all be listed in the description. And if you liked what you've seen here, don't forget to subscribe and follow us, as well as tick that like button on the video so we know you like the video specifically. And then, of course, use the comment section below if you have any questions or comments, opinions, or anything else. Maybe you have one of these. Maybe you just have some input in terms of how you feel it sounds. Definitely take to those comments and let us know, let each other know, and maybe even the manufacturer if they are watching. But as always, we thank you for watching, and we'll catch you next time. If you want to stay on top of all the latest and greatest, and or at least the gadgets we cover, remember to subscribe right here. Subscription button. Click it. You're going to want to. There's lots of videos, interviews, previews, all sorts of stuff. Button. Click it.